The Holy Gospel according to St. John, the 6th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats of this bread will live forever. And the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh. The Jews then disputed among themselves, saying, How can this man give us his flesh to eat? So Jesus said to them, Very truly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood have eternal life, and I will raise them up on the last day. For my flesh is true food, my blood is true drink. Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood abide in me, and I in them. Just as the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so whoever eats me will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven, not like that which your ancestors ate, and they died, but the one who eats this bread will live forever. Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Grace to you and peace from God the Father, from Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. May be seated. We have today and one more week in the Bread of Life Discourse, which means each week that Jesus is adding another layer of meaning to the miracle of the loaves, the miracle of the 5,000. And today he's taking it a step that is almost beyond comprehension for those folks who are listening, because it just sounds so horribly morbid. I remember even as a child, I really did not like these verses. And even now when I read through, I have to say a couple of weeks ago, getting ready for the series, but most especially Monday, it just sounds wrong to eat my flesh, and it sounds so literal, and it just is almost a complete turnoff. But what Jesus is saying, he's going beyond symbolism, and he uses a couple of interesting words. Last week we talked about the heavens and the sky. This week he's pushing us a little further. He's pushing us a little deeper into the meaning of what eternity really means. And eternity is not just some future pie in the sky, which is not a bad thing. But it is not just that. The Greek word is I don't like to throw these words out often, but it's aion, A-I-O-N. And it is a word that has more meaning than just eternity. Kind of like the sky and the heavens is more than just that. It is a future, but it is also life before living. If you recall in John's prologue, it mentions that Jesus was in the beginning before the world even came into existence. Well, what Jesus is suggesting today is that we are pulled into that same existence by virtue of our baptism. When we eat of his flesh and drink of his blood, we're transformed into this body of Christ, which is really an interesting phrase we'll talk about in just a moment. But in the meantime, it is a lesser, it is this huge meaning of life before, after, but most especially right now in the present time. And it's like the before and the after give meaning to the present time. And it's like Jesus is pulling us into his very self, his literally his flesh and blood existence. We are a part of that. And what he's really pushing is if you want this kind of life, if you want life with meaning, you will ingest, and I love that word, ingest. It's like you take it in and you digest, it becomes a part of who you are. So when we eat bread and drink wine, that becomes of our bodies, it becomes a part of us. And he's suggesting beyond, John doesn't have a proper Eucharist. There's no Holy Communion in John's Gospel, not like there are in the others. Instead, we have this. It's the whole gospel is a Eucharistic setting. The whole thing is eating up my body and blood. And what he's saying today is that this aion, this eternity, it begins now when you ingest my teaching. When you follow my way of being in the world, your quality of life will increase exponentially. Both your emotional life, your intellectual life, and your spiritual life. All of those things will expand their horizons. And there's a reason, then, that the church does some of the things we do to help encourage all that kind of growth. Now, how does it work? That's all very intellectual, and you're welcome. But how does it really live out? And what does that really mean to ingest Jesus' teachings? What does it mean to become a part? What does it mean to be a part of who he is? And how do we do that day to day? Well, the easiest way, it seems to me, is to start with something we're all familiar with, besides communion. This is something that we can, when we follow Jesus' way of being in the world, his feeding of the 5,000, first and foremost, that was a literal thing that he did. There were hungry people out there, literally hungry, not symbolically or metaphorically. They wanted something to eat. They needed some groceries. And so we need to remember, Jesus is not always, this stratosphere. He attends to immediate needs as well as spiritual needs. And part of the needs of the people at that time was their hunger. So, years ago, and we participated in this a couple of different times here, but years ago, some folks in the larger church in Chicago, the ELCA, came up, they conceived of the notion, I like to think by the leadership of the Holy Spirit, of the idea of a way that we can all participate in world hunger. You may all remember that last Christmas, I think I have no sense of time, I think it was last Christmas, that we had the barnyard effort where you could either buy a little batch of chicks, a cow, a pig, you remember that? And there were even ornaments that we put on the tree out in the north edge to kind of reflect that. Okay, that was the really cool thing about that. And this is part of ingesting Jesus' teaching. It's not just about doing that. It also has to do that we can all do it at whatever level that we are able and that we're capable. Like, I have no idea what any of you did when we participated in that last year. Some of you may have not even been with us yet, and that's okay too. But the ones who were, maybe someone here bought a cow, and if you did, kudos to you. But that was more pricey. I don't know what the cows were. You might remember $100 or $200, something like that. Some of you might have just bought like a little batch of chicks. I think that might have been the cheapest for $10. I don't recall, but I think it was. And some of you might have bought a goat. Some of you may have done this. And there were agricultural things too. The point I'm making is that none of us knows what the other did. But together, all of us together, the ones who bought the little chicks, the ones who bought the cows and the pigs and whatever it was, all of us together, we ended up buying a whole farm. We provided the income to raise money for a whole host of animals that would feed people not just now, but sustain them later. The point being that it didn't matter that maybe somebody just bought chicks and somebody bought a cow. The point was that we all participated. We did it together as a group effort, and that changed lives forever. Forever. I mean, I don't think sometimes we comprehend the good that we can do as a group. And it wasn't just us. This was, even denominationally, even globally, not just the ELCA, but even Sierra Leone, all the different churches participated in that effort. Thousands of dollars were raised to help feed people literally, not symbolically, literally. And guess what? When people are fed, then they have time to do some other things. Like maybe improve their prayer life, or maybe reach out and help someone else that has troubles. But it's awfully hard to help someone else when you're trying to just survive on your own. But that's what I'm talking about. That's something we can do together, as a group, and then nationally, internationally, and it's not just hunger. It goes on. Ingest Jesus' way of being in the world. Remember, Jesus had a heart for people who were ill, people who had diseases, those who participate in Relay for Life, the Susan B. Gilman, the Alzheimer's walk, the diabetes walk, there's an MS walk, all the different, not all of us participate in all of those, I know that, but almost all of us participate in one or the other, either by walking, raising money, or donating. But none of us knows what the other really did, and it doesn't matter. The point, again, is that we care for the sick of the world by coming together to do those kinds of things. That makes it real to me. That makes it where we can, okay, all this academic stuff about ingesting Jesus and becoming a part of it, that makes sense, because that's tangible. And that's something we can share with other people. Now, we're going to go one more step. When we talk about relationship, and we talk about, being an intimate relationship with Jesus, and he talks about that this morning, it's more than just one-way communication. We can say our prayers together, especially the prayer that Jesus taught us himself. That is a good thing. But comes a time when we need to listen. We're not always good at that, I think, as a whole. Maybe some of you are experts, and that's great. I have to be very intentional when I listen. I mean, it's like sometimes, when I don't listen properly, God does know how to get my attention. It's like, the two before with the donkey. Well, anyway, there is a way to get my attention. But the point being is that that's part of what Tay's saying. We're not doing that for entertainment. We're doing it intentionally on purpose to offer people a different way to pray, a different way to listen, a different way to concentrate on God for at least 30 minutes. Maybe 40. But the point being is not just to sing some pretty little songs, and it's not just to gather and sing Kumbaya, but there's nothing wrong with those things. I'm going to get emails. But there really is nothing wrong with those things. But it's really nice to have an intentional time of even the silence that is a part of the Taizé service, where you really are singing dead silence. There's no little accompaniment. It's silent. Well, you can do that at home. If you're like me, sometimes when you do that, you might doze off. It's more difficult to do that when you're with a group of people. Because if you start snoring, first we're all going to laugh. And then you're going to be very uncomfortable. We'll probably not do that the next time you come. But when you're sitting up in a chair together, and everybody is kind of in the same kind of mindset, and we've created, hopefully, a safe space for you to really sense, the divine. And there's something to that. The point being, it's another way to deepen our relationship with God. It's just another avenue. And it's not just for us. It's an avenue for us to invite others into the same experience. And it's a safe place because there's no sermon, no preaching. There'll be songs, a couple readings. Eat my flesh and drink my blood. There's more than one way to do it. There's serving, there's buying chicks, not people, barter on animals. There's ways to help sick people. There's ways to learn how to deepen our prayer life. Eat my flesh, drink my blood. It does start at communion. We'll actually start with baptism and then moves on to communion. But I just want us to expand our thinking. There's more than one way to do it. And it may not look the same for all of us. Let that be okay. But for those who want to try this new thing, I encourage you to give it a shot more than once and invite others into that same relationship. Eat my flesh, drink my blood. Amen.
Amen.
And the peace which passes all human understanding, keep all of our hearts and all of our minds in Christ Jesus our Lord.